Hey folks, welcome to the Wealth Transfer with TC. Today I want to go over a video concerning Prophet Joshua Giles. Now I'm going to be honest with you folks, I'm not very familiar with him. I was trying to go back and listen to some prophecies, but he said some things that were very interesting. Some of these weren't actually prophecies, but actual warnings that he said he was given. And some of these do align with what we have been talking about. Now, this is actually part one, because part two deals with an economic prophecy coming up here pretty soon. So if any of you are aware of Joshua Giles and you know of prophecies that have come to pass that you know that you can go and document, I don't have time to go through and listen to all his videos, but I found this very interesting. I've heard him speak on several different shows. And again, folks, we do got to test the spirit, and we do test the prophecies as well. All right, we have a lot of prophets that are giving dates and time frames, and they're not coming to pass, and they're making excuses and so on. So when I present these videos, right, I told you 2023 is going to be different. We approach it all with caution. But regardless of what happens, folks, I have shared with you that you should be in position, that you should be ready. You should have a plan. This is not just for now. And what people don't understand about the wealth transfer is that it's very connected to the end times. It's very connected to what's coming down the road in the future. We have no idea when Jesus is coming back. But what's getting ready to happen and take place with the wealth transfer that we know of, right, is going to bring a shift to many different areas, whether it's the economy, whether it's the school system, the church system, and whatever other systems that are out there. It's going to bring about a major shift. And what you do is very important in preparation, because it's not always going to be good. You guys do understand that just because we're going to head into a wealth transfer and we're going to have that 7 years of good doesn't necessarily mean that that's without world catastrophes or wars or anything like that. But we are prepping for the future of what is to come and to preach the gospel, right? The great harvest that is supposed to take place. Okay, and this is what I believe when it comes to the rapture. Now, I don't know when it's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to be before the tribulation starts or in the middle of the tribulation. And a lot of people don't understand that the mark of the beast doesn't come until halfway through the tribulation period. But those first 3 years is going to be hell. And there's nobody dying or their lives being taken if they don't receive the mark. That happens halfway through. So what we do now is going to affect whenever the rapture is, and it's going to affect the gospel and how, whether people accept the truth whenever this comes. I'm reading from you Matthew 24, and Matthew 24 is what is going to be like in the end times. There's going to be a lot of prophets going around deceiving people, and we can see that right now, right? There's going to be wars and rumors of war, and then you're going to see the abomination of desolation and all that. But what Jesus said, and this is verse 39, for in the days before the flood, people were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, up to the day Noah entered the ark. And they knew nothing about what would happen until the flood came and took them all away. This is how will it be at the coming of the Son of Man. 2 men will be in the field, one will be taken and the other left. 2 women will be grinding with a handmill, one will be taken and the other left. Therefore keep watch, because you don't know on what day your Lord will come. It says here, but understand that if the owner of the house had not known at what time the night the thief was coming, he would have kept watch and would not have let his house be broken into. So you must be ready, because the Son of Man will come at an hour you do not expect him. All right, so everything is going to be good. The way that I look at the scripture, 2 men in the field, 2 women will be grinding in the handmill, and one will be taken and the other one left. That describes to me about half of the population of the world will be taken up in this rapture. Yeah, it seems kind of crazy. If there's this great harvest, this great end time harvest of souls, and we're going to be using this wealth transfer funds to bring people to Christ on a mass scale like never seen before, right, then I could see that half the world's population is going to be taken. So that's what I believe what it means. And so when I read that and I look at, when God saved Noah and the 8, right, and he saved all those people, and everybody else was swept away. All right, so that's very telling to me, and this is the purpose of why we are involved in the wealth transfer. So in this video, he says 7 major shifts for 2023, and we're just going to go over some of them because I think some of them are important. Some of you need to hear this. Some of you may not be educated in some of these areas, and this is, to me, prophetic warnings and part of what we've already been discussing in preparation for this wealth transfer and preparation for what's to come down the road in the future. There's going to be bad times before we get into the 7 years of good. Okay, that's what I believe. Kim Clement talked about it, but I also think that depending on where you live, not everywhere is going to be the same. Depending on what state you live in or what country can determine how you do things as far as prepping, not just for the wealth transfer, but what's going to happen during the time of the wealth transfer when things are not very good, but also for down the road in the future, for 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years down the line. So I'm not going over the 7 major shifts. I'm going over some of them because some of them relate to what we are referring to. So I'm going to go ahead and play this. And the link to the full video will be down below in the description.
And to download what we need to prepare for in 2023. And so I want to give you 7 major shifts that we will see in 2023 and really beyond that point as well. 7 major shifts that we're going to see in 2023 and beyond that point. Now, there are many other things that the Lord has given that I'm not going to share on this particular live today, but I am going to share these 7 key shifts that we're going to see. So number 1, the Lord began to speak to me concerning what we have just witnessed over the past several years. And then he began to give me insight concerning the next year. We've come through a period of a 3-year changing of the guard. A 3-year changing of the guard. Not only did we hear that message being prophesied, I was one of the people prophesying that in 2019 before we came into really a new era and shift. But not only have we heard that message within the church world, we've also seen and witnessed that within the secular realm as well, where we've seen those that have been at the helms of industries completely being moved out of place and the Lord putting others in position. But the Lord said to me that 3-year period of a changing of the guard is going to enter into a final phase within 2023. And I saw that closing out a chapter where 2023, we're going to have a final phase of this period of a changing of the guard. And when I talk about a changing of the guard, it's dealing with the passing of the baton from one person to another. It's dealing with the transference of mantles from one individual to another. It's dealing with someone that has been in a position, that has occupied that position in the forefront, that will pass that on to someone else. Now, of course, we understand that those things happen all the time, but the past 3 years, we have seen it in mass. And this is why it has been a period of transition, and it has been a period of a changing of the guard. This has been a 3-year changing of the guard period. And 2023 is going to be the conclusion of that chapter. We are going to continue to see the guard shift, but we're coming into the next place after that. And so number 1, we're going to see another major shift in leadership. Let me say this again. Number 1, I'm giving you 7 major shifts for 2023. Number 1, we're going to see another major shift in leadership, meaning that we're going to see that final phase of this chapter of the changing of the guard, where there are people, again, that sit in certain seats, or they are occupying and they're at the helms of their system, their industry, or whatever area that they are in. But the Lord is going to cause those people to now shift out and begin to pass that assignment on to someone else. And so you're going to see more changes come in leadership in every single area of society, including the church. Now, I want to deal with 2 specific areas, government and the church. Now, these are two areas that you're going to want to put your eyes on in 2023. We're going to continue to see a changing of the guard with the shaking in the church. This means leadership roles within the church. I saw more leaders that have occupied key positions for many years. I saw those leaders transition. And so we're going to see more transitions happen within the new year. That's within the church. But then I also saw a mirror effect of that within government. And I want you to prepare yourself and to get ready for another major shift as it relates to leadership. The Lord would allow leadership to change when he's bringing us into another period of assignments. Whenever he brings us into a new chapter, the leadership at times will shift and change, and it's going to continue to happen. Now, the Lord began to show me this, and I have given words like this, and we've seen those things happen. And I don't share this just loosely. I'm not just getting out here to share anything. I've really taken time to pray, and I believe being led of the Spirit in what I share, and to make sure that things that the Lord has shown me that I'm not supposed to speak, that I don't speak those things outside of the timing and the will of the Lord. But I saw in the vision of God coming into 2023, I saw another transition within government. And this is not just specifically for America, but the nations around the world. I saw another transition in government as we move into the new year. And then specifically as we come out of the winter season into spring, the Lord began to show me this where I saw a major passing, a major death. This was a transition, and I saw the flags at half mast once again. And the Lord said to me, it will just be a sign of the changing of the guard. It's going to be another symbol of the changing of the guard and power that is changing hands. Now, I've been sharing this over the past 12 months that the Lord said a switch is coming, and we've seen that happen. We have seen where the Lord has allowed some to be taken down and others to be put in position.
So there are some very interesting things that he said. He said there's a 3-year changing of the guard that's coming into a final phase. Okay, that means this phase is still going. I know a lot of people are probably thinking, oh, he's referring to DJT being in office and so forth. He's not referring to that at all whatsoever, because he was talking about the changing of a guard previously. And so this one here, there is a final phase. Right? He also talked about the shaking of the church, and key leaders will be in transition. So that means also you're going to see key leaders within the Christian world come out of those positions and new people coming in to those positions. Now, relating to what the changing of the guard in this final phase. So he said the winter into spring, a major passing away is going to occur, and flags are going to be at half staff. Now, some people relate this and might relate this to Kamala Harris becoming president, because something's going to happen with Biden. Biden's could pass away or something like that. But a lot of people in the prophetic, a lot of people out there that are claiming that their prophets are saying that Biden's going to be removed and DJT is going to be placed in office. And some of these people have said Kamala will never be president. And so when that prophecy, if Kamala does become president, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be pointing their fingers at some of these prophets that are saying that Kamala would not be president. But we'll see how it all works out. And then you have people like Chris Reed, who is giving prophecies, right? He's very popular. He's had some financial prophecies, but he's talked about Kamala Harris being president, and we can listen to that here really quick.
And how that the Hunter Biden laptop case will be a centerfold in the news and will begin to really hurt Joe Biden's credibility as president. And I even said this 1 year ago in December of 2021, that Joe Biden will not finish his term in office. Health reasons, an accumulation of negative press coverage. I think it'll all come together and work together. And it will, unfortunately, I don't feel like there's going to be a turning in his heart. And I feel like that the Lord is going to remove or cause Biden to not finish whichever term is his final term in office. And before the end of his term, he will be taken out of office. And I also saw that Kamala Harris, the one redeeming thing that he would see with this and trying to write his legacy and be a hero per se with the left, is that if he steps aside, then a woman becomes president for the first time.
Yeah.
And so he will be able to champion that and go down in history as, well, my health failed me and I had these problems, with investigations.
Mm-hmm.
And I stepped aside so a woman could be president. But I only saw her being in office a matter of weeks, maybe months, but that it would be climactic with all of that happening, and that she wouldn't be in power very long.
So that is another prophecy concerning Kamala being the president. Now, I have listened to other prophecies that, whether it's him or other people, folks, it seems like nobody really has a solid prophetic answer. Okay, and that's why some of these prophecies, when they happen, then we will know whether or not if they were hearing from God, or they had a vision, or they had an angelic visitation. All right, because he has said this before in another video where he said Kamala Harris will become the president of the United States. But there are other people who do and have talked about other prophecies relating to Kamala Harris. So regardless of how you feel about her politically, folks, God could turn anybody's heart around. And that was part of Charlie's prophecy. All right, so we should be praying for our leaders, because that's what you want, right? If Joe does step down, you want her to be dedicated to Christ. Now, as far as flags at half-mast, I think this might be relating to possibly one of the presidents that's still alive. I mean, currently right now, Trump, you have Obama, you have Jimmy Carter, Bush, and Clinton. So it might be very well that this could be one of the remaining presidents that's still alive, or it could be somebody that's a very powerful politician, possibly in Congress, but all of that remains to be seen. I just don't want to make it all about what's supposed to happen with Biden and Kamala and all that. But I think that's what he's referring to. But this confirms the transition to what he is referring to when we see this take place. All right, so this next one deals with land ownership.
So number 2, the Lord began to show me this, and this, I believe, is going to be a point of encouragement for many of you that are in the body of Christ. This next shift is going to be a point of encouragement for you, because many of you that are in the body of Christ, many of you that are believers, the Lord is going to push you into this specific area, and it's going to be for purpose. And so number 2, I saw a shift in land ownership. A shift in land ownership coming in 2023. Now, what does this mean? There's going to be in the spirit like a massive migration, is what I saw in the vision of God, where the Lord begins to once again pick people up and move them into new assignments, into new territories, into new areas. Some of you, the Lord is about to move you out of the place and the space that you've been occupying, and he's going to give you new land and territory. In other words, you're going to see this in a natural way. I'm not just speaking of spiritual. I'm talking about an actual shift in land ownership, where the Lord says, because of the volatility in the economy, because of what we will see continue within the new year, you're going to see land come up for sale. There's going to be land that's going to be sitting there in limbo in some areas, in some cities, in some regions, and the Lord will position many of you to take that territory and to occupy that land. Now, this will be residential. It will be commercial property. It's going to be both. And get ready for the Lord to increase you. And many of you are already owning land and property, but the Lord's going to double and triple what you own. This means you're going to have the opportunity to take possession of more land and territory in the spirit and in the natural. But I saw this push in the natural for the church, for believers to begin to occupy new physical land and territory. And some of you are not even going to be looking for it. You're not going to be praying for it. You're not even going to be asking for it. It's just going to drop into your hands. Keys are going to drop into your hands for purpose. Some of you are going to be minding your own business, doing whatever the Lord calls you to do. And you're going to be put in a position where God's going to give you access to new keys. And so get ready for land ownership because of the way that the economy will move and is already moving. In 2023, I saw another hit to our economy. It's not for us to be alarmed. We're actually going to rejoice around it because the perceived recession is going to give way to the lowering of prices as it relates to land, as it relates to housing, as it relates to commercial property. And you're going to see churches and Christian organizations begin to take not just church buildings. You're going to see Christian organizations begin to take and possess malls and commercial property. You're going to see Christian organizations and marginalized communities begin to take, and they're going to have this period of acquisitions where they're going to begin to take strip malls and different stores. And you're going to see this as an unusual thing because it's going to be you're going to see this on many fronts. It's not just going to be one organization where you say, yeah, I heard of a church that purchased a mall, or I heard of that organization that purchased this particular store. You're going to see it happening on multi fronts, because this will be a multifaceted kind of year where you're going to now step into a different facet of your purpose and a different facet of the promise of God for your life. And we are going to take land and territory. Now understand this shift is going to happen suddenly. Let me say this. This shift is going to happen suddenly. It's already happening, but we're going to see it accelerate within 2023. And many of you are going to be put in positions where you're going to own more than what you currently have as it relates to land. Prepare for this right now. If there are things that you need to do regarding credit, do it now. And if there are things that you need to do regarding your savings or having to store up so that when you're put in the position, you are able to buy. And then what I heard the Lord say is we must begin to move in group economics. Listen to this. If you are a believer and you are connected to other believers, we must begin to move in group economics, which means we cannot be a lone ranger in this. There are certain assignments that we will have where we must begin to pull our resources together. This means that there might be 5 of you that are a group of friends, and you can't afford that particular land on your own, but you can pull your resources together. And the 5 of you can go in and purchase that farm or purchase that property. And then you all can own it. And until you begin to build up enough where you do it for each one, you move as a unit until everybody can own as an individual, until everybody can own on their own. And this is what the Lord is doing, is group economics. You're going to see this as a thing being highlighted within 2023.
All right. So very interesting, because just referring to what he said, the very last thing is group economics, right? And we discussed that, right? We've had several prophetic words given about, we have been given some low points like for McDonald's, right? And so if we want to be owners and make change within McDonald's, we will have the opportunity to do that. And remember, we also talked about Disney and maybe a group of us getting in and buying Disney so that we can change Disney. And if we as a group of Christians come together and buy Disney, that could have a major effect as far as preaching the word of God and making the changes that are necessary, because you see what kind of movies Disney's putting out right now, right? And they don't care about, how it affects children. So he talked about the land ownership, right? And so you need to set yourself up as far as education wise, and just watch some videos on how to buy residential properties, or how to buy commercial properties, or how to buy farmland, or the people's biggest mistakes in buying farmland and stuff like that, right? So you want to get kind of a background and understanding. Then when things begin to happen, if you know somebody that works in real estate, you can hire them to work on your behalf, right? So you don't want to give this information out ahead of time. That's something that you're going to keep to yourself. And when that time comes, then you can hire somebody to help you start purchasing this land. But try to get some educational background on this especially if you're one of those who are thinking about buying farmland. And that's going to be very important in coming down the line in the future, because we talked about the food shortages, we talked about what's going on with the water and power, and you're going to need resources, right? There are plenty of farmlands out there that are available for sale now, and when this begins to take place, you're going to see a whole lot more. That doesn't necessarily mean because you buy farmland that you have to take care of chickens and cows and all that stuff. You know, you might just have enough land just to be able to sustain yourself and help build up your storehouse and help out your community when that time comes. Doesn't mean you have to you actually have to have a full out farm, right? So he said the shift was going to come in 2023. So not 2024, but in 2023. So he also said, talking about preparing your credit. So make sure that you're checking your credit report and make sure that there's anything on your credit report. Make sure you do everything to clean it up. And so when the finances do come in, right, then you can also, things that you need to get off your credit, you can take care of those things on your credit. Now, for some of us, we're going to have cash to be able to purchase a lot of different things. So your credit may not necessarily be an issue, but you don't want it to be an issue. So I find that interesting because, you know, Prophetess Sharon, she did a whole video on the land and how land is going to be cheap and so forth. So this actually confirms what Prophetess Sharon, that's now Daily Bread, confirms all this.
And to speak to me concerning a shift in agronomics. A shift in agronomics. Now, I understand that some of you may not know what that means, but the Lord said it to me. I began to research it and look it up. But he said there's going to be a shift in agronomics. Now, agronomics is a subcategory of economics. And this subcategory of economics is really a branch that deals with farming. It is a branch that deals with farming. Agronomics or agronomy is the science and technology of producing and using plants by agriculture for food, fuel, fiber, chemicals, recreation, and land conservation. Now, this is going to be very important. We're going to see many changes as it relates to land. I'm going into the next thing here, a shift in agronomics, which again is a subcategory of economics. This deals with land and farming and deals with vegetation, and it deals with cattle. So we're going to see a shift come to that as well. And the Lord said to me, we're going to see conflicts begin to arise among the nations regarding food and regarding farming, regarding supplies, what you can produce from the land. And I saw certain conflicts begin to arise specifically over just the land itself, because they're going to be key areas around the world, in throughout the nations, where there's going to be conflicts over land, because we're going to see the Lord begin to show me this vision of unusual happenings that will begin to occur more frequently with cattle in the next year. I saw unusual happenings come with cattle on different farms that produce for commercial consumption. In other words, the Lord began to show me specifically mysterious kinds of diseases that will come among cattle, where it's going to be so many that will be lost as it relates to cattle farms. It's going to be so many that will be lost, and so we're going to see it affect the supply. Now, again, what will be planned surrounding that is artificial enhancements to certain things within our stores. We already have that, but I saw another push for it in the coming year and really even beyond 2023. But there's going to be emphasis on what we consume and what we put into our bodies. And so you're going to have to really seek the Lord for a diet concerning your destiny. I have been saying this to my church for the last year or more, that there is a specific diet for your destiny, and everything you will not be able to consume. And so you're going to have to be spirit-led on what you consume and what you put into your mouth. You're going to really have to think about, should I be eating this? Should I be consuming this? Is this going to help me health-wise, or is it going to really impact my health in a negative way? And there will be times that the Lord will begin to move us from eating certain things, because within this next year, as it happens throughout the decades, this has happened. But I saw it again for 2023, where I saw contaminants in certain packaged foods that are commonly consumed foods within the grocery stores. We're going to see contaminants in some of those foods. Some of them will be meat products. Some of them are actually going to be produce. And I saw it with some of the greens and produce, but I also saw it with some of the meat products. And so you're really going to have to be led of the Holy Spirit with what you consume, with what you eat. Now, this is also going to give and bring a rise to those who produce their own. This is going to bring a rise to those who produce organically. It's going to bring a rise to those who have the ability to grow their own supply and to raise whatever it is that they need, or to partner with those organizations that are already doing that. So get ready for a shift in agronomics. We're going to see this as a spiritual thing as well. We're going to see it in the natural. It's going to be a sort of a famine. You've heard me say that before, but we're going to see that famine begin to take on a different form.
Okay, now folks, I've shared with you guys about the famines in the meat and everything else. And there is this document that I have here, the Inflation Economy, Food Shortages, Gas, and Oil Prophecies. All right, and these are prophecies going back several years concerning famine, what's coming to the grocery stores and everything else. And this is very important, folks, because, you know, he talked about the cattle and things happening to cattle. So if you're a farmer or you know a farmer, please share this video with them so that they can protect their farms, because it wouldn't surprise me if people that want to get rid of cattle, because you know they're shutting down farms in other countries, you know, under climate change, right? And because of cows fart too much, right? And they're trying to push this fake meat stuff on us. So if you know any farmers, first tell them about what's to come with the economy and be prepared. But also to make sure that they are protecting their livestock, right? So if they got to put up extra cameras and they got to put up extra security and so forth, make sure they're keeping their, you know, the food that the cows are eating, however they're feeding them, making sure that their feed is wells too. And those farmers need to be praying over their farms, right? So there's going to be things that happen with the cattle. So this is why I say, if you want to avoid a lot of what he's saying right now, right? We talk about our storehouse and keeping, building up frozen meats and so forth, right? And so when you have the money and you have the finances, before this starts to happen, you can start storing your food, right, in freezers, right? And make sure that you can store a lot of it, because when this begins to happen, at least you will have meat that will get you through these times, you know, to whenever all of this changes, folks. I believe that we're going to be going through some, several years of some really hard times. And so these prophecies are there to prepare us. So the link to the sheets will be down below in the description. I want you guys to listen to all of them if you can, because there are different perspectives and so forth. So it doesn't matter what country you live in. This is how you need to prepare yourself. So that's the thing, is we want to make sure to learn, how to store things. Learn how to buy land to prepare yourself. You want to, all these things that he's sharing, you want to take the time out to educate yourself, right? Some of you will have to make sacrifices. You have to sacrifice, watching sports, or sacrifice watching your favorite shows, or doing certain things. But this is why God gives us prophecy, so that we can prepare ourselves. Now, because of time, folks, I'm not sharing all 7 major shifts. He really gets into each one of these pretty in depth. The whole entire thing is an hour, 9 minutes long, but you can actually start it around the 15-minute mark. I think everybody should listen to it. I don't care if you're already a prophet, but I think it's not just about prophecy. This is warning for things that we have already seen and heard, as far as what's in the news, what's in prophecy, and so forth. And I think this should give you a kick in the butt about, what's to come down the line in the future. So let's go ahead and start with the next one.
So let's go to number 5. We're going to see a shift. And I want you to pay attention to this. This may seem unusual for some of you, but number 5, the Lord said to me, in the world, we're going to see a shift in water systems. We're going to see a shift in water systems within the world. This again, I share as a word of warning. There are times that the Lord gives us prophetic words, and they are warning words to those that are listening, to those that will hear them. I saw water sources contaminated beyond what the governments want to admit, and beyond what news media is wanting to even share. And I saw at least 10 different states that we're dealing with, and it's probably more than that. But in the vision of God, specifically, he zeroed me in on 10 different states, that at least 10 that we're dealing with contaminated water right now. I'm not talking about next week. I'm not talking about next month. I'm not talking about it. You will see it unfold next year. But I saw this even right now. And so the Lord said to me that technology is going to begin to increase concerning water purification. And we're going to see water as a key element and a key focal point within the coming year, and really beyond that, where you're going to see nations and conflicts that's going to arise over water and water supplies. I saw this again within the Middle East, within Israel and surrounding nations, where again, there are going to be battles and conflicts that will arise concerning water supplies and who is occupying and has access to the water, because whoever controls the water controls the land. If you don't have access to water in those desert environments, then you're not able to grow the things that you need to grow. And so you're going to see conflict arise concerning that. But specifically in the United States of America, I saw 10 different states. Yes, this is also the word for other nations, but within the U.S., I saw at least 10 different states with contaminated water. I saw it hit the news in the coming year. And as we begin to approach this year, you're going to see more where they're going to be under strict advisories, where they're going to have to boil their water. Now, this means that there's going to be a demand for purification. There's going to be a demand for water filtration systems. And for those of you that are in places and you just sense something is not right with this, you need to really listen to the Holy Spirit and make sure that you have water filtration systems in your homes. If you can get something that you add on that filters your water, get it. And if you can get something, if you're in a place where you have to boil your water, boil it, because I saw this continue, and it's going to increase within the coming year. Now, again, these kinds of words I understand are not popular when it comes to the Christian community, and people tell you don't prophesy these things, but the Lord has given me the release to share this, and I have to share this with you, because when we begin to see these things happen, we don't want it to be said that we didn't know, and who didn't see it, and the Lord didn't want us, and we didn't know what to do. And so some of you are asking for the specifics of which state and what area. I'm just encouraging you, wherever you live, to get some kind of water filtration specifically in the United States, because we're going to see this where within the pipes and within the infrastructure, there are certain chemicals that are detrimental to the health of those that live within those communities. And you're going to see this revealed where some of the components that are within those water systems really are causing illness in the people. And it's already been happening in some areas. It's just no light that's shed on it. And so there's going to be a massive push for new infrastructure concerning water systems in the coming year. You're going to see this massive outcry from different cities, and especially from certain marginalized groups within the nation. You're going to begin to hear this outcry for the government and the governments of multiple nations to begin to rise up and do something about it. But the next battles that we will see and the next conflicts that we will see, they will be surrounding water and the water supply within the nation, because it's really a detriment to the health of people when you have contaminants that is within water. So make sure that you get filtration systems within your homes. I saw this as an issue within 2023.
All right, folks. So we have been talking about your storehouse and water for some time now. If you guys remember, and this is what I like about at least the way that he is sharing his word, because he's saying this is what God showed him, but he's telling you it's already been happening, it's already in the news, and so forth. When you listen to the whole thing, right, he said, in many of these things, he's saying that it's a warning, okay? That right there tells me that he is sincere in giving out his prophetic word, because he's not making it seem like he's the only one that's giving it. Now, granted, this prophecies and warnings he just did a month ago, and these are things that we all have been talking about, but it's something to remind us, what we should be doing. Okay, he said there was a shift in water systems, right? And this is when we talk about our farmlands and land that we have, right? And to make sure that, we have a really good water supply and how to keep your water clean. And this is one of the reasons why we are looking at and been talking about, when I go to buy a place for the long term that's going to be on a lot of land, I got to be able to make sure to set it up for the long term, because the way that everything is sounding, not just from him, but from other people, we're going to be going through some things for a few years. And he talked about the water sources being contaminated. You guys remember what happened in Flint, Michigan, right? And there are other places right now. Every now and then, somebody will send me a text in our own city about the water supply. Hey, did you hear about this area having to do a boil and all this stuff? And it's just like, okay, how come they're not talking about this on the news? How come they're not sharing this in the newspaper or whatever the case? You actually have to be on the website to look at everything and to get the alerts and everything. And I'm like, it's because they don't want people to freak out every time there's a boil order. And you will find out there's a lot more boil orders than what you think. Now, he said there's going to be 10 different states that are really going to be hit hard by this water thing. Okay, so again, this is why I say you need to store up on your water. People will be going to the stores and taking all the water that's there, whether it's in a 20-ounce bottles or whether it's in jugs or whatever the case. You need to make sure that you're able to have enough clean water for you and your family for a number of, at least for a couple years, and then also be able to learn how to clean your water, right? That's coming from your faucet, because if you need it for whatever reason, you need to learn the steps and what to do and to make your water clean. You talked about the water systems, right? And the filtering and all that stuff, right? So you need to learn and be able to purchase whatever equipment that you need to do that. And if you live near salt water, I guess if you're living on the east or west coast or whatever country you live in, say if you're in Africa somewhere and you live near the ocean and you are able to have the funds to actually buy the equipment to convert salt water into drinking water. So that's just something that popped into my head when he was talking. So the next thing that he talks about, I'm not going to get too much into it because, this video could get dinged. So he talked about exposures coming on a pretty big scale for this year. So we'll wait to see as far as that, because I've been hearing that since 2016 from different prophets and different people under Q and all that stuff, been talking about exposure that has supposed to have happened since 2016, right? And here we are in 2023. Wow, that's 7 years. 7 years I've been hearing that stuff. And folks, there was a lot to cover over here. I encourage you to listen to the entire video. So this is pretty interesting, and also, it's good to hear some of these things over again, because we tend to forget. And I guarantee there's a lot of people out there that, folks, I have over 20,000 subscribers, and maybe on average 3,000 to 4,000 will watch the videos that I put out there concerning about all these different things. And I think that most people are not going to even pay attention to what is even being said in this video. And a lot of people who are involved in the wealth transfer, like I've shared, they're not going to make it all the way through. A lot of people are going to be focused on getting their Lamborghini. Some people are going to be focused on doing other things that God never intended you to do when you receive this wealth transfer. So all this goes back to preparing your land, all right? And think about what you want to do as far as occupying land and what you're going to do to that land and how far you're going to go in developing that land. Some people might decide to buy a whole farm with cows and chickens and everything else. And just to remind you folks, again, if you do know any farmers that have cows, tell them about this video and share with them what could happen so that they can protect their farmland as well. And if we are in a position where we do buy a farm with, cows and stuff, that we protect our land. Make sure you have good security on your land as well. So anyway, folks, so this is actually part 1. Part 2 deals with the financial situation that he's saying is coming in February. So that's in 2 weeks from now. So thank you guys for listening. God bless. TC out.